One of 8 children, raised by a single mother named Elizabeth in the mining town of Witbank, that's where this story begins. There was nothing here that promised a CAF Champions League medal, or a record move to England, or a nickname whispered across a continent. So how does a boy from these dusty streets become the man carrying a nation's hopes onto the biggest stage of all? This is Percy Tau. Low to the ground, electric in tight spaces, a player who turns defenders inside out before they've even set their feet. But to understand the joy in his game, you first have to understand the road he travelled to play it. A road that took him through a record transfer, a closed door in England, a long detour across Belgium, and back to the summit of African football. This is the story of the boy from Witbank who refused to give up. Part 1. Witbank. Percy Muzi Tau was born on the 13th of May 1994 in Witbank, now known as Emaleleni, in South Africa's Mpumalanga province. It's a coal mining town, hard and industrial, where the future is measured in shifts at the pit, not minutes on a pitch. He was one of 8 children, raised by his mother Elizabeth. Money was scarce, opportunity was scarcer. And yet, on the streets and dirt patches of his neighbourhood, a small, quick boy was teaching himself a game. That's where the foundation was laid, not in an academy with manicured grass, but in cramped games where the only way to survive was to be braver, faster, and more inventive than everyone around you. The close control that would later define him? It was born in those tight, chaotic matches. His talent pulled him through the youth ranks and toward the country's biggest club. By his late teens, Mamelodi Sundowns, the powerhouse of South African football, had seen enough to bring him into their orbit. Part 2. The Breakthrough. In 2014, Percy Tau made his professional debut for Mamelodi Sundowns, and not against just anyone. His first taste of senior football came against Orlando Pirates, one of the fiercest names in South African football. At first he was a prospect, talented, raw, learning his trade in the Premier Soccer League. But the flashes were unmistakable. The change of pace, the disguise, the ability to drift between the lines and arrive in dangerous areas. And then it clicked. In 2016, Tau became a genuine Sundowns star, and the team around him was reaching for history. That year, Sundowns conquered the continent, winning the CAF Champions League, the most prestigious club prize in African football, alongside their domestic league success. For a young forward from Witbank, this was the first summit. A continental champion, before the rest of the world even knew his name. He kept climbing. By his final season at Sundowns, Tau had become the best player in the country, earning the Premier Soccer League's Footballer of the Year award and finishing as a joint top scorer. He could play as a forward or drop into attacking midfield, linking play, threading passes, finishing chances. He was, by any measure, the standout talent in South African football. The next logical step was Europe. Part 3. The Closed Door. In 2018, the dream arrived. Premier League club Brighton and Hove Albion signed Percy Tau. The fee was reported at around £2.7 million, described as a record for a South Africa-based player. For a boy from Witbank, the door to the Premier League had finally swung open. A record-setting move, a nation celebrated. And then came the complication no one could solve on the pitch. Tau was denied a UK work permit. Under the rules at the time, his international standing didn't meet the threshold required to play in England. And just like that, the record signing could not play for the club that bought him. Imagine it. You earn the move of a lifetime. You sign for a Premier League club. And then you're told you cannot step onto the pitch. The door had opened and immediately shut again. So Brighton sent him out on loan to build the case, to Belgium, to Union Saint-Gilloise. If he couldn't play in England, he'd have to prove himself somewhere else, again and again. Part 4. The Lion of Judah. And in Belgium, Percy Tau caught fire. At Union Saint-Gilloise, his flair, his dribbling, his eye for goal made him one of the most exciting players in the division. The skill moves came thick and fast. The shimmies, the nutmegs, the sudden bursts that left defenders grasping at shadows. It was football played with joy by a man determined to be seen. That form earned him a nickname that would follow him across a continent, the Lion of Judah. A fitting name for a player who attacked every game like he had everything to prove. Because he did. The loans continued, to Club Bruges, one of Belgium's giants, and to Anderlecht, another of the country's grandest names. Different shirts, the same Tau. Direct, fearless, always looking to make something happen. He was racking up appearances, goals and assists across Belgium, doing everything a player could do to satisfy the work permit criteria that had kept him out of England. Year after year, he kept knocking. Think about the patience that takes. The record signing who'd never kicked a ball for his club. Stuck on a detour, playing brilliantly, yet still waiting for the chance he'd already earned on paper. Part 5. The Premier League, at last. In 2021, finally, the door opened for real. Percy Tau made his way back to Brighton and onto a Premier League pitch, making a handful of appearances in the competition that had once shut him out. It was only a handful of games, not the long Premier League career some had dreamed of for him. But it mattered. After everything, he could say he'd played in the Premier League. The closed door had been forced open. Yet football careers don't run on symbolism. They run on minutes. And Tau, now in his late 20s, needed to be a leading man again, not a fringe player. So in 2021, he made a bold move. Part 6. The Giants of Cairo. He signed for Al Ahly, the most successful and decorated club in African football history, the Red Giants of Cairo, where anything less than winning everything is failure. At a club of that size, the pressure is enormous, the scrutiny constant. But this was exactly the environment Tau had spent his whole life proving himself in. The unfancied kid who had to be the best one out there. And he delivered. In 2023, Tau won major honours with Al Ahly, the Egyptian Premier League title and, once again, the CAF Champions League, playing a key role as a forward in their charge. 2 CAF Champions League triumphs now, one with Sundowns, one with Al Ahly. The boy from Witbank was a 2-time king of the continent. At Al Ahly, the full range of his game was on show. The link play, the clever movement, the moments of individual magic that justified everything he'd been through to get there. The Lion of Judah hadn't been tamed by the detours. If anything, the long road had sharpened him. Part 7. Bafana Bafana. For all the club trophies, there's a different weight to wearing your country's shirt. And for South Africa, Percy Tau became the man they looked to, the talisman of Bafana Bafana. At the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations, South Africa arrived without the favourites tag, and then they made the whole continent take notice. Tau and his teammates pushed deep into the tournament, blending grit and flair, riding a wave of belief that grew with every round. When it was done, Bafana Bafana had claimed the bronze medal, South Africa's best finish at the Africa Cup of Nations in decades. A whole generation of fans finally had a team to be proud of again. South Africa's best AFCON finish in decades. And at the heart of it, the forward from Witbank. He'd carried his club to continental glory. Now he'd helped carry his country back onto the African stage. The detours, the closed doors, the years of waiting, all of it had built the leader the team needed. Part 8. The biggest stage. And now comes the chapter that means the most. In 2026, Percy Tau carries South Africa's hopes as the team's talisman on the biggest international stage of all. Think of what he brings to that dressing room. A 2-time CAF Champions League winner.
a man who fought a system that told him no, and kept playing until it said yes. Experience earned the hardest possible way. For the younger players around him, he's living proof. Proof that a kid from a mining town, from a family of 8, with no shortcuts, can stand among the best in the world. Whatever lies ahead, an entire nation will be watching its lion lead the line. Legacy. So what does Percy Tau mean?
Start with the football, the close control, the dribbling, the goals across South Africa, Belgium and Egypt, the 2 continental crowns. By any measure, one of the finest African players of his generation. But the deeper meaning is in the road. The record signing told he couldn't play. The star sent on a years-long detour. Most players would have let that break them. Tau used it to get better. The work permit saga could have been the cruel headline that defined him, the player blocked at the Premier League door. Instead, it became just one chapter in a story about refusing to give up. From the dusty streets of Witbank, past the headframes of the mines, to the very top of African football and onto the world's grandest stage. Every step was earned. For the kids on those same streets today, the ones with a worn ball and an impossible dream, Percy Tau is the answer to a simple question. Can someone like me really make it? He already did. The Lion of Judah. The boy from Witbank. The man who turned every closed door into a reason to keep knocking. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Beyond the Boots for more. The boots tell the story. We just follow the footsteps.